Hello gorgeous people, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today I'm going to talk you through all of the books that I want to read in February. I am very well aware that it is the 7th of February as I'm uploading this, but you're going to forgive me because yesterday, or today as I'm filming this, is my birthday. It's my birthday today, so you have to forgive me, and also you have to wish me happy birthday, and you also have to watch all my videos and make sure you subscribe and just be really nice to me because it's my birthday. So yeah, today we are going to talk through all of the books that I'm going to be reading in February, but I'm also going to kind of use this as a time to do a little bit of a reading update of the things that I have already been reading this month, because I have been reading a few things. I've definitely slowed down since January. January was just, I read like 20 books and it was so good, but also there was a lot of reading going on in January. That's not going to be the case for February. I feel like I have just kind of some more things going on, and I've started doing some new freelance work for my job, which is really exciting, but it means I have less time for personal reading. So we're going to have basically a shorter TBR, but it's going to be really heavily focused on new books and really highly anticipated brand new releases that are coming out. And also just some books that are on my 24 priority reads list as well. Maybe before I actually jump into my this month's TBR, I'll go through last month's TBR and tell you how well I did. Because even though I think I read 19 books last month, I actually didn't finish off my TBR because I write my TBR to kind of keep me accountable and make sure I'm kind of hitting all the different aspects of things that I want to read, but I don't necessarily follow it to the letter. I don't just use it as a list and then pick up the next book on the list. I kind of use it just to make sure that I'm keeping up with my goals in general. It's making sure that I'm still reading books that are reading around the world, and I'm also reading books that are classics or longer books that I've got on my 24 priority reads list, and I'm also keeping up with NetGalley reviews and that kind of thing of new releases that are coming out. So last month I read 19 books, but I didn't finish everything on my TBR. The ones that I didn't manage to do, that I'm going to roll over to this month as well, I didn't finish They Both Die at the End. I didn't start this either. I was waiting for it to come in at my library and it just never came in. I didn't realise that it was so popular to be downloaded from the library. But I think my hold should come in very soon. So I'll be reading this either physically or on audiobook. This one I'm reading because I've been heavily requested to read it as well. And I am just kind of curious about this book. It's one of those insanely popular books that I have never read. And I think it's a contemporary romance where two people meet and they're going to die at the end of the day and they have one day together, which it's not normally my type of thing to pick up. I think it's a young adult book as well. I don't really read a lot of young adult contemporary romance, but we'll see how it goes. So that's going to be rolled over to this month. The other thing, so the next one, the one that I'd already rolled over to January and now I'm rolling over again to February, so I originally started reading this in December, is The Wheel of Time. And honestly, if I'd have recorded this video 2 days ago, I'd have been like, there's no hope, but I'm just never going to get back to reading The Wheel of Time because I've been struggling with this book so much. I'm up to book number 10, it's Crossroads of Twilight, and I started it, like I said, in December, and I'd read 15%, and I just managed to get to 20%, I think, by the end of January, and I was just feeling so down about it because it's really just not been my thing at all. I haven't been enjoying reading this series lately, especially this book, because the one before it I was expecting to be really, really bad, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was just a 3 star, it was a fine read, and I kind of then expected this next one to be similar, and it's not. It's so much worse. It's unbelievably overwritten and boring, and there is just pages and pages of just description with no action, and a lot of it just, I don't know. I can go into it. If you've ever heard about The Wheel of Time, you will have maybe heard about this slog, which is basically a few books, and there's a debate about which books are in the slog, but everyone pretty much conclusively agrees that book number 10, the one I'm currently reading, is definitely one of the slog books, and I'm feeling it. But there has been progress on this book in the last couple of days, and I am currently 62% through this book because I had to kind of give myself a mindset shift, and I stopped reading it how I've been reading other books. I've just decided to read it as a way of setting myself up for the ending and reading it as more research into where the characters are and where the plot currently is, to then like be excited for the next book, because I think after this book it gets really good again, and the ending is apparently just absolutely amazingly written. I mean, you'd hope so after like the whole book, the series is like 14 books long. You'd really hope that the last ones are going to be really good. But anyway, so I am 62% through the Crossroads of Twilight, and I'm going to carry on reading it in this kind of slightly detached way, because it lets me read it faster without getting annoyed and stopping every like couple of pages. I think for February I still am going to put the next book on my TBR, book number 11, because I want to keep this ticking over. Like, I don't want it to just completely fall off again and then having to get back into this series from scratch. Book number 11 is Knife of Dreams, so I am putting that on my February TBR. So I have no hope of finishing book number 11 by the end of February, but I'm going to put it on the list to make sure that I at least start it in this month. Okay, the other book that I have started but didn't finish was Loot by Talia James. The sun is rapidly setting, but anyway, this is the book that I have started and I'm about 40% through. This is a historical fiction and it's based in India, and you are following this kind of apprentice toy maker who is also turned kind of watchmaker. He is being apprenticed by this kind of eccentric Frenchman, and he's basically asked to come to the palace and make this enormous mechanical tiger for the Emperor? Sultan? Yeah, the Sultan's palace. That's pretty much as far as I've got. And I don't know where this plot is going to go at this point, because that's kind of where the blurb leaves off from my memory. Anyway, I don't like to read the blurb too close to when I'm actually reading the book. So far, I'm enjoying it. I think it's really fun and it's very atmospheric, and we're kind of very immersed in the setting, but the plot hasn't quite kicked in to the level where I'm like very excited to pick it up. So we'll see what I think when I finish it. And then the last two books that I did not manage to get to at all last month after my Reading Around the World challenge. And one is from Charco Press, who are a publisher that I'm very interested in. I really like their books that I've read from them so far. And I've also heard amazing things about this book, and it is Elena Knows. So I think this is about a mother-daughter relationship, and the protagonist is an older woman, and she kind of sets out on this journey after she finds that her daughter has potentially committed suicide, but it's like very unsure if she actually has or not. And I think it's about kind of changing your mind as you get older and going on journeys and learning even as an older person. So that sounds really exciting, and I also have heard amazing things about this book. And then the other one that I did not manage to get to at all is this one, The Bridge Over the Drina. And this is set in a Bosnian town that is by this bridge that kind of connects these two empires, the Ottoman Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And so I think it's a historical fiction, and you're following mainly this village throughout many different conflicts. And it's also historical fiction, and it's also considered a classic, or I think a modern classic. And so I'm really excited about this one. I've heard a lot about this book, and I think it'll really tell me a lot, and it'll teach me a lot about not only that period of time, but also that area of the world. So I'm very excited for this one. I did not manage to get to it last month. And then the final book that I did not manage to get to from my January TBR was one of my NetGalley reads, which was The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten, who wrote For the Wolf, I believe, which I didn't read. I've heard really good things about The Foxglove King from other people who have read it, and I think it's out now. I'm not even sure why I didn't pick this one up, because I have been kind of in the mood for something like this, which is a romantic gothic kind of fantasy, and it's the start of a new adult fantasy series. And again, I don't like going too much into the blurbs of this book, but I think that you're following a main character who's escaped from some kind of cult, and she has to hide her death magic that's going on. But I feel like it's got a gothic feel, and I think it's a lot of courtly intrigue, or like a palace kind of royal court political maneuverings type fantasy, which I'm really in the mood for. So I'm excited to read it this month, even though I didn't get to it last month. All right, we are fighting a losing fight against the sun, so hopefully that's a little better. I shouldn't be having caffeine this late in the day, but it's delicious. And also, it's my birthday. I can do whatever I like. That was like 50% whipped cream. Anyway, the next three books I want to talk about, I am doing for book clubs and buddy reads, which is so fun. I actually have one that I have not bought yet that I need to add to this list for my friend book club. But let's start with my book club that I run and host, which is the Reading Around the World book club. If you are unfamiliar somehow, I mention it in almost every video. I run a book club that over on Fable, and basically we pick a country and a book every single month. We spin a randomized wheel to have 3 different countries, and then we do a poll and choose the country and the book that we're going to be doing. And last month we chose Brazil, and the book that we are doing is Clarice Lispector's The Hour of the Star, which is a really skinny little book. And I've also heard so much about this author that I think that she's just going to be an amazing, amazing writer, and apparently this is a good place to start with her work, so I'm very excited. This is basically about a woman who's kind of just living her life, but there's the narrator of the story, who's called Rodrigo, just clearly holds this woman in so much contempt, and he just thinks that she should be so much unhappier than she is. She just lives her life. She watches movies and loves Coca-Cola and goes out with her boyfriend, but then the narrator of the book is thinking that she's ugly, underfed, sickly and unloved with no future. And it just goes on. And I think you're following, so he's narrating her life. But I'm very excited. It sounds strange. Can't wait to see what I think of this author. So that's the one we're doing for the Reading Around the World book club. But then I also am doing a couple of buddy reads for a different book club as well. So the next book club, also on Fable, which is Tazmyn's book club, Tea Books and Tazmyn, hosts a book club that is focused on middle grade and children's fiction, and I am joining, well, I'm always in the book club, but this month we are reading Impossible Creatures, and I'm going to be doing the live show with Tazmyn at the end of February. So I will probably repost that link as well somewhere here so you can get notified if you want to watch that, or if you want to read this along with us. I will link Tazmyn's book club down in the description as well as my own book club. You can join both of the book clubs. But I'm really excited about this. I really love children's stories and reading middle grade fiction, but I really often reread things that I read as a child. I don't often keep up to date with newer releases, but I've seen this book absolutely everywhere, and I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. It was Waterstone's Book of the Year last year, and I was really happy to be sent it, so I'm very excited to read this one with Tazmyn. Next up, I'm doing a buddy read with my friend Bex, and we are both going to read Time Shelter, and I'm very excited about this one as well. This, I think, won the International Booker Prize. Yeah, it did in 2023, and this is a Bulgarian book, and I think it is set in this place that is a clinic of the past, and it's supposed to be helping, I think, sufferers from Alzheimer's disease, because it's reproducing specific times in the past, specific decades, and it's supposed to be helping transport them back in time. But I've just heard amazing things about this one, and I can't wait to read it with Bex. And then the last book that I'm doing for this book clubs and buddy reads section is my friend book club book that I don't actually own the book physically yet. I need to actually order that. Maybe I'll do that today. And it is The Island of Sea Women, and this is a historical fiction book, and I'm so excited about this. It's got absolutely amazing reviews on Goodreads. It's got hundreds of thousands of ratings. It's very, very well regarded. And in this book, you are following 2 girls from very different backgrounds. They live in this village and they get involved in the all-female diving collective. And then as the village kind of goes through loads of changes over time, I think they form this really, really close female friendship and bond. And I'm really excited about this. It's quite interesting because in our friend book club, lots of people are really interested in diving. And I'm not. I'm kind of terrified of the concept of diving. I don't think I'll be scared of the book, but I would never go diving myself, but lots of people in my book club are very, very excited by the idea of diving and often do diving, so it's going to be very interesting to read. I think it's a really good pick for our book club book. And this book, I think I forgot to mention, is set in Korea, so we are really doing a lot of different translated books, different cultures, and I'm really excited for this month. It's a real nice range of books from all over the world. Okay, then, like I said, the rest of February is going to be really focused on catching up with new releases and doing reviews for things that are imminently coming out basically this month. And so I have quite a few books on my NetGalley, which is where I get access to early books. So I have 4 books on there that I really want to get to and read this month. The first one being, this has already come out, this is Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austen, and she wrote Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead, and I've heard amazing things about that, and I'm convinced that I would really like that book as well. I just haven't got around to reading it, but I think lots of people who have very similar tastes to me have absolutely adored that book. But I think this is a similar tone in book, where you are kind of following an anxious main character who is slightly eccentric and strange. So in this story you're following Enid, who is obsessed with space and true crime. She's also deaf in one ear, and she's also just incredibly anxious person and is dealing with quite a lot in her life. But it's also said to be really heartwarming and also a really entertaining story, so I'm very excited about this one, and I think that I will really love it, this one and also her other book. And then the next book is actually just sitting behind the camera, so let me grab it. I just recently made a video about my most anticipated books of 2024, and this book was in there, and then I reached out to ask if I could be sent it, and then received it in the post, and I'm so excited about it. And it is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. So I'm so excited about this. Robert Jackson Bennett wrote Foundryside, which I have not read, but is on my list to read this year. But this is his new book, and it's been kind of pitched as a retelling of Sherlock Holmes, but in a dark, magical fantasy kind of environment, where you have a female detective who is very good at her job, and then you kind of have a long-suffering assistant type character, and they are exploring a murder that's going on, a very strange murder. And from the couple of people that I've seen that have read this early, they just became absolutely obsessed with it, and it was their best book that they've read so far this year. So I'm really, really excited to get to this and see what I think of The Tainted Cup. Next up is a book that is going to be my first ever Ali Hazelwood book. So Ali Hazelwood writes really popular contemporary romance. I think most of them were actually kind of started off as Raylo fan fictions, and I've never read any of her books. But when I saw that she was coming out with a more of a supernatural romance, I could not help myself, and I requested to get sent it early. I still have not read it yet, and it is Bride. And I think this is a dark romance, maybe, between a vampire bride and a werewolf husband, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm very excited for my first ever Ali Hazelwood book. I think that this will be, for me, a good way to start, because I've not read any of her other books, but I'm not as into contemporary romance. And then finally, the last book that I'm going to be reading in this section of the TBR is going to be An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. And I'm so excited about this. It's a dark academia, dark romance, fantasy book. I think it's about misbehaving students and teachers and kind of a forbidden romance situation. I'm not entirely sure, and I don't really want to know too much. I just know that I love S.T. Gibson's writing, especially her romantic writing. She writes with lots of tension and lots of beauty, and I'm just very excited about this book as well. So that is An Education in Malice. And then the final book that I want to mention is one that I have already started reading, and I'm about a quarter of the way through this book now, actually. And I need to like give kind of a disclaimer for this book, because basically, well, the book is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and basically I read Love in the Time of Cholera last year and absolutely hated it, like with an intensity and a burning fiery passion. I hated that book so much, and mainly because, well, of a lot of it, but a lot of the relationships that's explored in that book made me feel very uncomfortable. I really did not like a lot of the ways that romantic relationships were depicted, and I also just hated the main character of that book so much. But a lot of my complaints to that book, lots of people said that I should have started with this book, it's much better, and also like if I started with this one I would understand his writing more, and that this is their favourite book of all time, and I have to basically read this one before I swear off him forever. So kind of out of spite and kind of out of curiosity, I have picked up this book. And like I said, I'm 25% in, and already we do have a fully grown man who is married to a child, which is just exactly the kind of thing that I didn't want to be reading, and that was really much heavily included in Love in a Time of Cholera. Although in that book it was worse in terms of every kind of trigger warning of terrible assault and abuse and incest and paedophilia and rape and everything was in Love in Time of Cholera. This is less so, but we already are getting a slight flavour of it, so I'm really hoping it's going to be treated differently in this book, because in the other book it wasn't like even mentioned in a way of, oh, this is bad. It was just, it's a fact of life, and it's lovely and it's celebrated. It might be treated differently in this book. It's such a shame, because actually a lot of the writing is so unique and the settings are so like interesting, and a lot of the way that it's written is like very kind of hypnotic almost and mesmerizing. You're like so drawn in by the writing and the words, and then just certain things happen and I'm like, why are you getting married to a 10-year-old? You know, I hate it so much. Anyway, I'm 25% through. We'll see how I feel by the end of this book. I don't know. But that is basically all of the books that I'm going to be trying to read this month. Let me try and hold them all up. I always try and do this and I always drop them, but I'm always going to keep trying. I need to get stronger arms. This is the thing. There we go. I did it. Thumbnail time. Oh my god, okay. I did the thumbnail, but now my arm is dying. So these are all the physical books. Oh my god. I'm going to try and read this month. It doesn't actually feel like that much, but we're already a week in, so I've only got 3 weeks to read all of these. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that because I'm starting to do some reading for my job now, but it's stuff that I can't talk about or track, or, you know, books that are unpublished at this point and, you know, kind of unpublished manuscripts, it means that I'm going to be doing a lot of reading that I will not be able to talk about. I don't yet know how much that's going to affect kind of my reading routine and how much I get to read in the rest of the month. Hopefully I find like a good balance, a good equilibrium, and it'll be fine. But that's going to be something that I'm going to be dealing with this month as well. So we'll see how that goes. But basically that is it from me today. Let me know if you've read any of these books, or if you're going to read them very soon, or if you want to now that I've told you about them, because I'd love to know. I'd love to know a couple of books that you're going to put on your TBR for this month if you do TBRs. But that is all from me today. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe because it's my birthday. Wish me a happy birthday in the comments and like this video. And I will talk to you again soon with another video. Thanks for watching. Bye!